Samanta Chakravalesu Atra Gachantu Devata Saddhamman Munirajassa Sunantu Sagga Mukkadam Dhammasavana Kalo Ayam Badanta Dhammasavana Kalo Ayam Badanta Dhammasavana Kalo Ayam Badanta Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa uppannānaṁ pāpakānaṁ akusalānaṁ dhammānaṁ pahānāya candaṁ janeti vāyamati viriyam ārabati cittam paganhāti padahati. I thank all of you and the Venerables for giving me this opportunity. A chance in a lifetime, really. And I thought this is the best way to celebrate my 80th birthday. Though I promised last time that I would be back. And I feel so fortunate to be with you. The topic for today is Uniqueness of Buddhism. So, Buddhism is unique in every way. I mean, I can't think of anything that is equal to Buddhism in every way. When the people speak of permanence, Buddha speaks of impermanence. When they speak of pleasure, the Buddha speaks of pain. And when they speak of selfhood and me and I and ego, the Buddha speaks of non-ego. And the very basic foundation of our thinking is entirely different from what the world is. The Buddhist way of thinking is completely different, and therefore it is unique. So, I don't think I have to elaborate much on the uniqueness of Buddhism. I thought as I was stepping out of the house, my daughter said, "Mama, go and talk to them about the void, the non-self nature." And she said, "Just think of your house. If you will dismantle the house, put away all your roof and walls and your doors and windows, what is left? There's nothing, a void." And she said, "And your car, dismantle your car, put away all those pieces, the engine and all those things, so many gears and things. What is there? Just a void, only space." I thought I'll add my 2 cents worth. I remember when Mr. Premadasa, our president, when he was born, you couldn't identify a single piece of his body. One moment he was there, next moment there was nobody. There were pieces of flesh and bones. Nobody knows to whom it belongs. In the end, I think his wristwatch is the one that gave the clue. It was he. So you see, what is there that we call me and I and mine, apart from a whole lot of flesh and blood and things coming together. And then when they are separated, there is nothing. The uniqueness of Buddhism is this. The utter We have no ownership of any description. Even the body does not belong. So the non-self nature, I think, is something that we should be thinking about as the uniqueness of Buddhism. Even impermanence people knew before Buddhism, and dukkha also they knew, but they never knew this non-self nature. No me, no I. How to reconcile to this? The Buddha pointed out there is only a mind and body. And the mind and body, they react and they act together in such a marvelous way that it gives the illusion of a self. When we came into this world, we didn't bring the body. The body was a gift from our mother and father, the fertilized ovum. But we did bring something into this world. What did we bring? From our previous karmic tangles, we brought into this world what? The mind. So the mind is something which we brought, and the body is something which was a gift in this world. And together this mind and body acts as if there is a self operating. Me, I, mine. Because the mind is able to create the body, and the body is able to create the mind. I will give a little example. Say you get angry, you see somebody out there you don't like to see. Now, the angry thought arose because of the body, the I, because the I was able to see. Now see how the body can create the mind, anger. By seeing something, you have created anger. The body is seeing, and the mind is creating anger. So how the body reacts on the mind? I will show you how the mind reacts on the body. How? Say you want to get up, you have a thought to get up and walk up to the Buddha statue. And what happens? As soon as the thought occurs, the whole body, millions of muscles and body starts moving and activating, and you start walking. See how the mind activates the body to go up there. And see how the body activates the mind. And they are constantly together, the mind and body. And together they look as if there is a real person. But if you can separate out the mind from the body, that was the greatest thing that the Buddha did. He said there is a mind and body, there is no self. And mind is something else and body is something else. But together they masquerade as a person. So this is the uniqueness of Buddhism, which you don't understand, you don't see in any other religious or scientific, or I can't think of anything that relates to this. How this mind and body are working together and making a big story of me and I. You separate them out and you find they are separate entities. Mind is not the body, body is not the mind. So, they not only work together. Those days there was a little example. There was a blind man and a cripple, a lame man. Now the blind man can't make a living because he can't go about. Cripple can't walk. He can see, but he can't walk. One fine day, this blind man got on top of the shoulders of the cripple. The cripple got on shoulders of the blind man. Together they can now do a good walk. But of course the blind man, he can't see but he can walk. And he has to carry the weight. But the cripple will be on top, he can see. He will say, go there, go here, now stop, now go. And of course if the body, the blind man fails, both of them will be on the ground. Now tell me, which is the blind man and which is the cripple? Yeah? The body and the mind. Body is what? Yeah. The cripple is the one who can see. That is the mind. And he's the one who is manipulating this body to do this and that. Just like a puppet. Which is more important, the puppet or the puppeteer behind scenes? Puppeteer behind scenes is the rascal. He is the one who is manipulating to shift the body, the puppet. Now you see, what is the puppet and what is the puppeteer? Two different things. Puppet is the mind and puppeteer is the body. Sorry, I'm making a mistake. Puppeteer is the mind, puppet is the body that is moving around. So now, we can see there are two distinct entities, the mind and the body. So long as they work together, we cannot find out that they are different. They look so much into it that they think it's me and I and mine. But often they disintegrate. At death, the body is left behind and the mind escapes and gets into another body. And life goes on like that. So, the danger is, this mind and body system is forever creating trouble. All time, it makes you unhappy, it makes you happy, and it gives you untold suffering which you even can't cope up with. The body can't stand on its own, it has to depend on the mind. And the mind can't be on its own, it has to depend on the body. So there's interdependence. Now, we are all seeking happiness. People find ways and means of getting happiness by maybe some of them, by killing they want to be happy, by stealing, by sexual misconduct they want to be happy, by telling lies and taking intoxicants they want to be happy. And some of us, by not killing we become happy. By not stealing, by not doing sexual misconduct, we want to be happy. By not telling lies and not partaking of intoxicants, we want to be happy. By protecting life, we want to be happy. Now, happiness is found in both ways. By killing and by protecting life also you find happiness. What is the difference of these two? By misconducting also you try to get happiness. By proper conduct also you get happiness. By coming here in the morning and observing precepts and leading a life of chastity, leading a life of renunciation, by giving gifts and by practicing loving kindness, also you get happiness. What is the difference between these two kinds of happiness? How do they generate? People do all the world's wicked, wild things searching for happiness. And people do all the good and noble things searching for happiness. What is the difference between the two kinds of happiness?
Good things, not thinking of self.
Huh?
Good things are done without thinking of self.
Yeah. One is kusala, one is akusala. But they are wrought in selfhood. Me, I and mine. I want to be happy. So it all revolves around this me and I. The wholesome way of living is rooted in non-greed, non-hate and wisdom. The wild, wicked way of living and getting happiness is rooted in greed, hatred and ignorance. So both are having happiness. Now we find how the mind is acting on this body and making life so difficult for others and making life so good and noble for ourselves and others. And see how the mind reacts on this body to do the wholesome and to do the unwholesome. So finally, it is this mind that is most important, mano pubbangama, because it's a mind that activates the body to do good and the mind that activates the body to do bad. So finally, it's all rooted in the mind, the powerful puppeteer behind scenes. But we give attention to the body all the time. We even forget that we have a mind. We give a name to the body. We dress and make everybody, I don't have to say much, you know what it is, how they show up their bodies. But there are not a word about this hidden power, the puppeteer who is doing all these things, the mind. So the Buddha based his Dhamma on the mind and said, never mind the body. It is the mind that is important, the mind that is creating good and evil by way of speech and action. So, I thought I will refer to Satipatthana, how to deal with this mind, because that is what is necessary in daily living. The body anyway we take care of enough and more, but how to take care of this mind that is perpetually creating trouble. So, I thought I'll talk to you about Satipatthana again, how to be mindful of the mind. Ida bhikkave bhikkhu santam va ajjattam kamaccantam. The panchasu nivaranesu. There are 5 kinds of defilements that constantly arise in the mind. Nivaranas. They are obstructions to the mind. If we identify them, then we know how to get rid of them. If we don't identify them, then we live with them. So the Buddha speaks of this. How from moment to moment you understand your own mind and the activities of the mind, how the mind changes from moment to moment, and how you can deal with this mind that is changing. Now, it has no overtones of the other person. It is only you and your mind that you are working with. That is a uniqueness. You don't try to stop the world outside there, but you try to stop the reaction to the world in your mind. And that is entirely your job. Nobody knows your mind. Only you know your mind. Nobody can change that. Only you can change it. Not even the Buddha can change our mind. If he can, he would have changed all our minds. He even couldn't change Devadatta's mind. Even a Buddha. Now how can we change anybody else's mind? We can't do that. We can only change our mind. So the world is there all the time. What it is, we can't help them. But we can change our reaction to the world. That's all we can do. So Buddha says, Santam va ajjattam kamacchanda. There are 5 ways, 5 obstructions to our enlightenment or our good and noble living. So we have to identify these 5 robbers that come to our mental household and destroy our mental household. And they are robbers. They don't stay, they go away. And then they get a weak moment and come again. They enter our house, always entering in and out. Whenever they get an opportunity, they enter. And they take all your valuables and run away. Because you are left in your mind in a confused and utterly dejected way. And then they have done their crime and gone. By the time you come out of it, you are lost. You have already committed in speech and action. Because these robbers come and the mind will impel the body and speech to act. And then they go away. That's what happens. So there are 5 robbers, maybe you know them. What are those? Kamachanda, very good. Vyapada, Tinamidda, Uddacha Kukucha, Vichikicha. Now how to deal with these robbers? The Buddha says how to deal with them. Ida bhikkave bhikkhu santam va ajjattam kamachandam attime ajjattam kamacchando tipajanati. As soon as there is lust and attachment and greed, they all come in a package. Along with greed comes me, I, mine, acquisition, acquiring power, power hungry, and everything for my entertainment, for sensual pleasure. When these things come to your mind, It's called Kama Chanda. Kama means pleasure. You like. Chanda means also Chandadana. It means you are willing to give the vote. The entire world is stricken by this. And all of us want sensual pleasure. But if we don't know the way with sensual pleasure, we live with it and we take it for granted and we want more and more and more. But it is one of the bigger robbers that leave you in a mess. So if you know what it is, then you know, well, there is sensual pleasure in me. Just to know it. The Buddha doesn't say to get rid of it. Only the Arahant can get rid of it. None of us, this side of Arahants, can get rid of sensual pleasure. We like it. And we want it. And we don't want to get rid of it. The whole world is running to acquire more sensual pleasure. Something to please the eye, ear, nose, tongue and bodily touch. So, for pleasure seekers, it is impossible to say, stop it. So the Buddha says not to stop it, but just watch out in your mind and recognize there is sensual pleasure, wanting pleasure in me. Only to know it, only to recognize. Atti me ajattam kamachandoti pajanati. Pajanati is to know. Atti means there is in my mind now sensual pleasure. I want and I want it. And also, asantam va ajattam kamachandam, when there is no more sensual pleasure in your mind, like now, none of you are having sensual pleasure in your mind, then also know it. Now in my mind there is no more sensual pleasure. Now this is a little game for you to play in daily living. As soon as sensual pleasure arises, just know it. There is sensual pleasure. And then what will happen? As soon as you know it, what will happen? Sensual pleasure is not just one thought. It is a series of thoughts that arise and pass away. They arise and pass away at tremendous speed, the speed of light. But we see it as one pleasure because all of it is like sandwiched, and we see it as one pleasure. So as soon as we see it, that there is sensual pleasure in me, what will happen to the series of sensual pleasure? Can you see sensual pleasure with sensual pleasure? Can you see darkness with darkness? Can you see light with light? If you want to see, you have to see. The light must come to see darkness. Now for you to know that there is sensual pleasure, there is a tremendous change happening in your mind. What is that? Wisdom has arisen. The sensual pleasure is intercepted with wisdom. If wisdom does not arise, sensual pleasure will keep going on. Till the end of life it will go on. Because it is very pleasant. People like it. They can live with it a whole lifetime. Only when wisdom arises that you see it. You can't see sensual pleasure with sensual pleasure. As much as you can't see darkness with darkness or light with light. You can see darkness only with light. So, for you to recognize there is sensual pleasure, you have to have wisdom arising. Then only you know there is sensual pleasure. If not, you don't know. You live with it and you enjoy it. Till the end of life also you live with it and enjoy it. Never knowing that there is sensual pleasure in you. Because it is pleasurable. You like it. You don't want to get rid of it. So you live with it. And then, that is the one that is creating all the mischief. So, what the Buddha says is, don't try to get rid of your sensual pleasure. Don't. Only observe it and recognize it. Atti me ajjattam kamachandoti pajanati. Pajanati is to know. Atti is, there is now present in me sensual pleasure. That's all. When there is sensual pleasure, just observe and recognize, well, there is sensual pleasure in me. Now, can you see sensual pleasure with sensual pleasure? You can't. You can't see darkness with darkness. You can't see light with light. You have to see darkness with light. Now, if sensual pleasure is darkness, then the light must dawn for you to see sensual pleasure. Now, what is that has arisen now? Wisdom. Only if wisdom arises that you can see sensual pleasure. Otherwise, it will be sensual pleasure rising, passing away. 100 billion times at the speed of light, they arise and pass away. All day. You even don't know it. You only have the pleasure. You don't know it. You come to know it only if it is intercepted by wisdom. So, just like you can't see light with light, you can't see darkness with darkness. You can see only darkness with light. So when there is sensual pleasure, and then it is intercepted with wisdom, wisdom is light, sensual pleasure is darkness, then you know there is sensual pleasure in me. Otherwise, you live with it and take it for granted. A whole lifetime. Now the Buddha says, Atti me ajjattam kamacchanda. A third. Then when you see it, you know there is sensual pleasure in me. Only to know it. Pajanati means janati. Pajanati means only to know it. Don't stop it. You can't stop it. Just know this is sensual pleasure. That's all that is expected. I think we can do that. Huh? That's not too much to ask. When you enjoy sensual pleasure, just know it. Now I am enjoying sensual pleasure. Asantam va ajjattam kamacchanda, natti me ajjattam kamacchanda. Now at this moment, is there sensual pleasure for you? Are you enjoying sensual pleasure? No. There is no attachment, no greed. Sensual pleasure has a lot of greed and attachment. This has nothing. Just at the moment you are listening to the Dhamma and there is no sensual pleasure. Then know it. I am not enjoying sensual pleasure. Then also know it. It is not sensual pleasure. It is really listening to the Dhamma is not enjoying the senses. It is the opposite. Because we are only not becoming victims of sensual pleasure. We are objectively seeing the sensual pleasure. So it is wisdom oriented. When you see sensual pleasure as sensual pleasure, it is a moment of wisdom. If there is ignorance, you succumb to the sensual pleasure and you live with it even a whole lifetime. So for you to see sensual pleasure, already wisdom has arisen. So that is the technique the Buddha uses in Vipassana. How to see your own mind. When there is sensual pleasure, just know it. There is sensual pleasure in me. I want to enjoy the sense pleasures. Only to know it. As soon as you know it, what happens? The concatenation is broken, and then wisdom arises. Of course, it will be very short-lived. Wisdom will fall away, and again sensual pleasure will take over. As many times as you can see sensual pleasure, as many times you have wisdom. So that is the way the Buddha advocates, to see it, to notice it, not to get rid of it. It is there all the time, every moment. But once in a way, you can notice it. This is sensual pleasure. Asantam va ajjattam kamachandam, nattime ajjattam kamachandoti pajanati. At this moment, is there sensual pleasure? Are you looking at a beautiful thing and enjoying sensual pleasure? Only an 80-year-old woman? No sensual pleasure here. So asanta means when it is not there, you know it is not there. And only to know it. Only to know it. Pajanati, janati is to know it. So when you are enjoying sensual pleasure, if you know you are enjoying sensual pleasure, it is wisdom. To know that you are enjoying sensual pleasure is wisdom. To know that you are not enjoying sensual pleasure is also wisdom. So this awareness, that is the wisdom. Awareness of that. Normally what happens is you get carried away by the sensual pleasure. You don't want to stop and think, this is sensual pleasure. But when you know what it is, this is vipassana, then you understand this is sensual pleasure. And that is wisdom. Sensual pleasure cannot see sensual pleasure. Only wisdom can see sensual pleasure. So long as you are in sensual pleasure, you keep on going. And there is ignorance. And you keep on going a whole lifetime also, sensual pleasure. But if wisdom arises, then it's like a powerful torch. You see in the darkness some shady figures, the robbers. So this wisdom is what sees sensual pleasure. If there is no wisdom, you live with it. And that is pajanati, janati, to know. So only thing, when you are enjoying sensual pleasure, you know it. I am enjoying sensual pleasure. Attine ajjatta. Nattine ajjatta. When you are not enjoying sensual pleasures, that is sense to the eye, ear, nose, tongue. At this moment, are you enjoying sensual pleasure? Are you enjoying what you see and hear and smell and taste and bodily touch? No, there is nothing like that, just this moment. So when there is no sensual pleasure, know it as nattine ajjatta. There is no sensual pleasure just at this moment. Listening to the Dhamma. You are not trying to enjoy your senses. You have given up enjoyment of the senses. So when you are enjoying sensual pleasure, know it. When you are not enjoying sensual pleasure, know it. That's all you have to do. Pajanati janati means just know it. Now I am enjoying sensual pleasure. Now I am not enjoying sensual pleasure. At this moment, what are you? Are you enjoying sights, sounds, smells, taste? No. Then at this moment is a moment of not enjoying sensual pleasure. Okay? So know it. Then yatacha anuppannassa kamachandasa uppadoti tanchapajanati. Now you are staying here and suddenly you think of some kamachanda, means some sensual pleasure. When it arises in you, you know it. It was not there all the time, now it has come. Now this is the third stage. There are 5 stages. First is when there is sensual pleasure, you know it. Second, when there is no sensual pleasure, you know it as it's not there. Then suddenly it comes. Then know it. Whatever sensual pleasure that was not there has now arisen. Third stage. Yatacha uppannasa kamachandasa pahanamoti tanchapajanati. And as soon as you see it, the sensual pleasure has arisen. As soon as you notice it, what happens to the sensual pleasure? There are 2 different thought moments. One is the sensual pleasure, one is the knowing of it. And it is wisdom that has already arisen and sensual pleasure falls away. If you see your sensual pleasure, then that means wisdom has arisen and sensual pleasure has fallen away. If the wisdom is strong enough, it will fall away for a long period of time. If your wisdom is only weak, it will fall away momentarily. And then wisdom is weak and again the sensual pleasure will take over. So it's a real battle in the mind. There is sensual pleasure on one side and there's wisdom that is seeing it. Every time it's seeing it, this falls away. No 2 thoughts arise at the same moment. So sensual pleasure must fall away for wisdom to arise. Then when wisdom falls away, sensual pleasure arises. So this is the battle that's going on. So this meditation is just to notice, just pajanati janati, knowing. The pleasure was not, sensual pleasure was not there all this time, but it has come now. Yatacha pahinasa kamachandasa ayating anuppadoti tanchapajanati. Whenever the sensual pleasure has fallen away, you see it and you put your foot down and say, it will not arise again. I have put a break to it. Then know it also. That is the way you tame your own mind. You see it arising and then it passes away. You see it arising again and second time also it passes away. And then again it is arising. 10 times it is arising. 10 times you see it. And then finally you know it will not arise. That's the way how you combat. Of course, sensual pleasure is difficult. So I would ask you to try the second one. Santangva ajjatam vyapadam. Anger and hatred. That is easy because it has a painful experience. Sensual pleasure has a pleasurable experience. You don't like to give it up. But anger has a painful feeling. So you make an effort to get rid of the anger because you know you are suffering with the anger. So it is easier for you. As soon as there is anger in your mind, then know it. There is anger in my mind. Now can you see anger with anger? No. You can't see darkness with darkness. You have to see darkness with light. If wisdom dawns, only you will know that there is anger in your mind. As soon as wisdom dawns, anger will disappear momentarily, so long as wisdom is there. When the wisdom becomes weak, the anger will arise. Now this is the game that we play. This is vipassana. So when you see your own anger, you see it with wisdom. If you don't see your anger, you succumb to anger with ignorance. What you see is with the light of wisdom, but you don't see it with the darkness of ignorance. So when anger arises, if you see it, it is with the light of wisdom that you see it. If you don't see your anger, that means you have succumbed to it with ignorance. So that is the way that you look, you control, you deal with your own angers and own lusts and pleasures. When the pleasure is there, you see it, this is my pleasure. Then when the pleasure is not there, you know, now there is no such pleasure. When the anger is there, you see there is anger. When the anger is not there, you see there is no more anger in me. That is the only way you can deal with this. So, janati, pajanati is only to know it. As soon as you know it, it has already fallen away and wisdom has arisen. If wisdom does not arise, this will not fall away, it will keep on going. So, to see your own mind with wisdom is vipassana, which is unique to Buddhism. No other teacher has never ever has found this method of vipassana, where you probe into your own thinking pattern and understand how there is lust and attachment and ego and pride and all of it in a bunch arising in me. As soon as you see it, it is wisdom that has seen it. If there is no wisdom, you live with it. If you see your own anger, then you know that I am with anger. You have to see it with wisdom. Anger cannot see anger. Only wisdom can see anger. As soon as wisdom dawns, then you know there is anger in me. As soon as you know there is anger in me, already wisdom has dawned. So that way you play this game, this is meditation. This is looking at your own mind. When there is anger, you know there is anger in my mind. And that is wisdom. If there is no wisdom, you won't see it. You will just keep on speaking and acting on your anger and becoming a fool. If you see your anger, you stop it at that and you don't carry it forward with speech and action. You just switch it off at a mental level and you have gained tremendous gain because you have not committed in speech and action. You have switched it off at a mental level. And you are the master. Your anger also you have switched it off. Your loves and your egos also you have switched it off. It is not a pretense. It is an actual seeing and understanding with wisdom. Some people can, human beings can pretend. They can have anger in their heart but pretend there are no anger. That is the complete dead loss, because you fool yourself and you fool others. But in Vipassana, you see your anger and you get rid of it even momentarily. You see it 5 times, 10 times. And then what happens to the anger? Again the anger has come. Again the anger has come. When it comes so many times and you see it so many times, what happens? I'll give you a little illustration. Say you are in your room and the doors and windows are all open and then robbers come. If you recognize the robber and say, "Oh, you are a robber," what will happen to the robber? You are so and so, your name is Simon, I know you. Will the robber want to be recognized? Huh? No. He will want to pretend he's your friend and come and destroy your whole household and go away. But if you identify him, what happens? He can't have access. Say he comes again and again 10 times, and 10 times you recognize him, you are a robber. What will happen to the robber? What will happen? He knows useless this mental household I have no access. Every time I try to get in, I am being recognized. That is the technique. So when the anger arises in your mind again and again, you recognize it again and again, then it becomes weak and falls away. If you don't recognize it, you become a victim to it. Then you speak and act on it and become a fool also. So that is how you look after your mental, these defilements that arise. By just watching your mind and knowing with wisdom, this is the state of my mind. Now my mind is with anger. Now my mind is with lust and greed and ego. As soon as you see it cannot stand the scrutiny of wisdom. It falls away. But it will rise again if the wisdom is slow, weak. But if the wisdom is strong, as soon as it comes, it will be seen and then pushed away. That way you make a final win. You get rid of the anger. Unwanted anger, unwanted lust, you get rid of. So you come out a winner by observing your own mind. And these are the 2 nivaranas, 2 defilements I was talking about. They are the most potent and difficult to eradicate. But of the 2, it is easier to get rid of anger than lust. Because lust is pleasurable. You don't want to give it up. You like to live with it. But anger you like to give up because it is painful. So you can first of all try, observe your anger and try to get rid of it. Then there are 3 others. Kamachanda, Vyapada, Tinamidda. Tinamidda is sloth and torpor. That is, you are lazy to do good. Lazy to do kusala. Lazy to do wholesome actions. For instance, you are lazy to go and listen to the Dhamma or come and spend the day in the temple. But if there was some dinner party or something that is nice and interesting, then you are not lazy anymore. That is the laziness, is to do good. When you recognize this is laziness to do good, then you can deal with it. If you don't recognize it, you succumb to it. So the idea here is this vipassana. Vipassati is to see your own mind. Put this torch of wisdom and see your mind. When there is anger, see it. Again and again it will be there. Get rid of it at a mental level. When there is unwanted lust and stupidity and connected with me and ego and pride and conceits and acquisitions and all that, see it and call it by its right name. This is just attachment, greed. And then you see it again and again, you can dispel that. You become master of your mind. So you think what you want to think and you don't think what you don't want to think. If it is laziness to do good, then understand this is my laziness to do good. If it is some wicked, wild thing, I'll be very happy to go and enjoy. But if it is something good, it is difficult, I don't want to do it. I'm lazy. That is Thina Midda, lazy to do good. But I'm sure all of you are not stricken with this. If not, you won't come here today. You are not lazy to do good. You are willing to give up your pleasures, at least for one day. Even for this moment. If you were at home, you would be eating, sleeping, and enjoying and sitting in comfortable chairs and lying down. You have given up all that. So today, you are a winner. You have given up your laziness. You have given up your kamachand, your sensual pleasures. You have given up your angers and hatreds. Did you even remember your angers and hatreds? Given up. So now, today you have come a winner. All those defilements are at bay. But maybe after you leave the place it will come. So the idea is to see it again and again. Pajanati janati. It's just to know it. Just know there is anger in my mind. That's enough. Then it will go down. Then again it will come. A moment later it will come. Again see the anger. Again see the anger. 3 times, 4 times, 10 times you see the anger. It's like accosting your robber and saying, "You're a robber." Again you have come. Yes. Get out. Again you have come. Get out. Like that, you understand that this fellow is a robber, he is not to be entertained, he is to be got rid of. So you yourself are master of the situation. So you know how to tackle your mind without becoming victimized by your mind. What is the time?
11:27.
When do we stop? 11:30 I have to stop. Arrive?
3 minutes.
3 minutes. So I have to rush through the other 3. Kamachanda, Vyapada, Tinamidda, Uddhacha, which is restlessness. When there is restlessness in the mind, you have to know there is restlessness. As soon as you know it is restlessness, you just throw it. Get rid of it. Let go of the restlessness. When there is anger, let go of the anger. When there is unwanted kamachanda, that is lust, let go. When you see it, you understand, then you let go. And then uddhacha kukucha and regret. Regret also. Don't have any regret about what good you have not done or what bad you have done in the past. No regrets, because it only makes you, it is a purposeless thing. See it as regret, throw it. Let go of regret. Let go of anger. let go attachment and ego and stupidity with that. And Vichikicca is the last one, that is doubt. If you are in doubt, you must understand, now I am in doubt, and make it possible for you to clear your doubt. Go teach, read the book, or go to a teacher, get rid of the doubt. If you have doubt, you won't take one step forward. You stay in your doubt, and then you are not making any progress. So you can say, who knows that they were enlightened beings? Who knows whether you can get rid of your anger? Who knows whether you can get rid of your lust and or who knows whether you can get rid of your laziness to do kusala. Like that, there's a question mark, who knows? And then you don't take any step forward. So in this way, you become very enlightened, living your ordinary daily living, and you are able to tackle your own mind. That is how you become a winner. That means the vicissitudes of life do not have an impact on you. You are strong and you are not vacillating and oscillating with all the things happening outside. And that is the final sainthood. So we have to go a little way, but if you practice, it becomes your habit. After that, those days when you get angry, your habit is to speak and act. Now your habit is to get rid of it. It becomes a habit. Those days when you had lust, you have to speak and act on it. Now you don't have to. You see it and then you let go. Those days when you were lazy, you succumb to it. Now you know it is lazy, you let go of the laziness. Now those days when you were restless, you became restless all day. Now you know you are restless, and let go of the restless. And you let go of your regret, you let go of your doubts, and then you come a winner. Then only you can practice loving kindness and also give something to the world that the world needs so much. I must finish this up by thinking of my back home in Sri Lanka. When I visited the north just 2 weeks ago, we went to a settlement of Sri Lankan Buddhist community, and they were so poor. They had not even a change of clothes. They had just recently settled, 200 families. And then I was so unhappy. I asked them what they wanted. They wanted a vaga leader, that means a community well, because there had no water in Trincomalee. And they wanted a preschool, because there was one woman who had 2 years of preschool training. And she said she can do if there is a preschool. So I said, I'll try my best. They don't want much money, they can work. They only want the cement and sand and whatever, because they can work on it. And they said, we will try to get you a community center and a community well for education. They have no lights, no roadway. We had to go across in a jeep to reach up to them. So maybe I bring you this little bit of news from Sri Lanka. Maybe all of us can join, even in a small way. And I will take special responsibility to go and find them this. And with that, I'd like to end our time as is gone, and maybe share the merit that we made by all of us. We have had so much of thoughts on love and non-greed, non-hate and wisdom, which we have for 1 hour or maybe more, and we can share all of it, with the divine beings and our dear departed relations. Akasatta ca Bhummanta Devanaga Mahitika Punyantang Anumoditva Chiran Rakhantu Lokasasana. Akasatta ca Bhummanta Devanaga Mahitika Punyantang Anumoditva Chiran Rakhantu Desanam. Akasatta ca Bhummanta Devanaga Mahitika Punyantang Anumoditva Chiran Rakhantu Mampara. Idam o nyati nam hotu Sukhita honti nyati. Idam o nyati nam hotu Sukhita honti nyati. Idam o nyati nam hotu Sukhita honti. So I thank you most sincerely, and I thank Gamini and Sujata, and thank the Venerable Master who sent me the visa letter and made it possible for me to come and enjoy my 80th birthday.
Happy birthday.
Sometime over. Thank you.